A very good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Bharti and Dr. Deepak. And being a part of your course is really a privilege for anybody, especially for me. And I acknowledge my colleague Shail for some of the videos here. So I think till now you all learned what you should be doing and how a nice ideal toric workup and intraoperative situation should go. But in my hands, more often than not, things will go wrong when it is a toric or a multifocal IOL. And let's see what happens if the capsule ruptures. So I think the whole question is, if you have a ruptured capsule, there are two scenarios. One, unexpectedly you have an intraoperative posterior capsule rupture, or second, where you already have a pre-existing tear in the posterior capsule. Can you or even should you think about toric IOL? And let's see in these few cases. So this is a 57-year-old accountant scheduled for fellow eye toric, doing very well with the first eye, a toric monofocal IOL. And here you can see that the surgeon, this is one of our trainee surgeons, quite okay, the surgery has gone off well, but you can see that little tentative in implanting the IOL still goes off well, and this is a little older video. We now mostly use intraoperative marking, but here are the axis markings that were already made. Now here everything is okay. What happens is, all of us at our centers in Raghudeep Eye Hospital, we do a bimanual IA, and the irrigation is pushed behind the optic to clean up the viscoelastic thoroughly, and just keep an eye at this region. I think the surgeon has still not realized, but definitely there is something coming up here. The toric IOL is in the bag, it is almost the end of surgery, and this whole strand is also going into aspiration. Now the surgeon is still trying to dial the lens into its intended axis, when I think finally it dawned upon the surgeon that yes, there is a tear. Now what to do? Now you obviously, you can always, if you have a retinal colleague or a senior colleague, you can involve them. But what do you do? How do you manage this very well placed IOL? Do you just ignore it? Do you sort of not look at it and close the eye and come out? You could do that, but that's very risky, because as soon as you remove this irrigation from the eye, this tear could enlarge, and this being a single piece hydrophobic acrylic IOL, it can tilt it, and it's a pretty large defect. So you can even have a part dislocation of the IOL into the vitreous. So the whole message of showing this case was that at whatever stage you have a complication, I think it's very important that we manage that complication the way it should be managed, and not mentally try and ignore it. So the first thing was to not yank out the irrigation, hydrate the wounds and come out. Now after this, the patient is under topical, triamcinolone preservative free is injected. We use Orocort, and you can see that vitreous strand here which is coming. So you have to deal with it, you cannot pretend it is not there. What we like to do for several years now is do a pars plana vitrectomy. So a trocar was injected under topical anesthesia, and this is done about 3 millimeters behind the limbus. Now what will happen next is the vitrector goes through the pars plana cannula, I mean the trocar, and the irrigation is still through the side port, and you can very well see that whole vitreous strand being drained back. So the advantage of using this approach versus going through the top or the limbal route is that when you go from top, you will actually pull up more vitreous, and this rupture can enlarge and endanger the stability of this very well smug sitting toric IOL. By doing this now, we made sure that this strand is now severed from its connection, so you can either just cut it, you can see that it's freely floating. So it has no connection with the vitreous cavity. So now we are done with that, and fortunately, again, without hydrating, you do not come out, you hydrate the wounds. We sutured this wound because we do not want to risk any shallowing in the chamber, and again, like I said, you have to make sure there is no vitreous even at the end. Triamcinolone was injected, it was freely swirling, no strands, and then that was the end of the case. This is what the patient looked like on post-operative day 1, very, very stable toric IOL. You can see here the PC rupture, again the same thing in oblique illumination as well. Now let's look at another case, a very young lady, 39-year-old patient, scheduled for monofocal toric IOL. And you can see all the things that Dr. Bharti and everybody said, we did everything diligently, but this is where there was a PCR noticed. 3/4 of the nucleus is still in, but again, like I said, you have to do what needs to be done. So a triamcinolone was injected, again a trocar was, you can see the trocar here. and the trocar was put in, vitrector goes through, and irrigation still remains limbal, and you do an anterior vitrectomy. The advantage of this approach is twofold. One, it pulls vitreous back, so it avoids enlargement of an already large PCR. Second, you can symmetrically go 360-degree around and clear the vitreous more symmetrically, so when you do put the lens in the bag, it doesn't tilt because there's more vitreous one side or less vitreous the other side. So that was done. And having done that, now we proceed with removing the rest of the fragment. Now many of you would say that what if this drops while you're doing a vitrectomy? Then we have to let it drop. You cannot remove the nucleus with so much vitreous present because we don't see this, but we are dragging and pulling so much vitreous. So once you do a vitrectomy, then we actually, if you see, this is irrigation is separated from the phaco tip. The irrigation line was put on the IA handpiece, and the aspiration was put on the phaco handpiece, and using modest bottle height, flow rate and vacuum settings. Now the rest of the nucleus is gently and slowly removed. So you see that it's not dropping because we are constantly making sure that the material remains at the tip. And here a combination of torsional ultrasound and fluidics, the flow rate, are helping us. But you can see that large PCR now. Fortunately, it did not enlarge thanks to our techniques in managing it. So the whole question now is, this was scheduled for a toric lens. Can you even think about it now? So this is what we did. A microrhexis forceps was taken, and this edge of the rent or the rupture was converted into somewhat of a strong margin manually by creating, it's not I wouldn't say it's a PCCC, but we tried to create a strong margin so that if you do put the lens in, it does not enlarge further with implantation of the IOL. Now this you can see 17 diopters, it was a myopic eye planned for a toric. And the other thing I wanted to highlight, in such cases you don't want to do a stressful implantation, so the incision was enlarged internally, a little bit flared, so that the cartridge goes inside and under control you can implant these IOLs. And here I prefer a spring type injector over the rolling injector or the Monarch injector, whichever brand it is. Very gently this IOL is being put inside the capsular bag. So this is being placed first in the capsular bag and aligned with the axis. Now the alignment, you cannot see the overlay unfortunately because it was a digital intraoperative alignment system. We didn't have the overlay at this time. Once this lens is in the bag, you can't leave it there with half your PC open. So what you do is, you have a good rhexis margin. So with 2 Lester hooks or Kuglen hooks, once you make sure there is no vitreous, so you see here that with 2 Lester hooks, you go with one behind the optic edge, and with the other you lift it up and capture it through the anterior capsulorhexis margin, which is reverse optic capture. We all know of putting the lens in the sulcus and then capturing the optic behind the rhexis. Here you are putting it in the bag, so haptics remain in the bag, but the optic is in front of the anterior capsulorhexis margin. And then obviously you make sure that there is no vitreous and whatever viscoelastic was there is removed. And we have a pretty stable, again, toric IOL. Now I have taken a suture. You might say that what about the astigmatism? Yes, it might add to it a little bit, but I'll remove it. It's only one single suture and I'll remove it within a week to 10 days, but I don't want that initial shallowing. So this is a 3 months post-operative picture of the same eye, and you can see that dumbbell shaped appearance which is suggestive of reverse optic capture, and the IOL is exactly where it should have been. It did not move. In a way it got locked with the rhexis, so that was a good thing for us. And now we don't need a YAG capsulotomy ever and the patient is very happy. So this was another scenario. And also you have to keep following any of these patients with retinal and glaucoma evaluations. And my last case is something, a very young 25-year-old boy with a polar cataract who got a cricket ball injury, and now he has a PC defect along with the polar cataract. But this has been over 3 weeks, so it's a fibrosed margin. I won't show you the entire surgical video, but it's a pretty old video also. So pardon me for the quality, but you see these margins here which are fibrous, following the same principles of low fluidics, low IOP, we could remove the cataract successfully. The margins are well fibrosed, and so the IOL was placed in the bag itself. It was not captured, no reverse capture was done, because these are fibrosed margins. They are not likely to extend or expand, and this is what the young boy looks like 6 months post-operatively. So I think to sum up, Can you put a toric IOL once you have a ruptured capsule, or can you leave it in if you already put it in and it ruptured? As a rule, for a general thing, I don't recommend that. So please don't take this message that in every PCR go ahead and put a toric IOL. That's not a general rule. It can only and only be implanted in with sufficient experience. If you had a small central rupture and you could convert it to a posterior capsular excess, if you have a PC defect for whatever reason and the margins are pretty well fibrosed, or if you can put it in the bag and reverse capture that through the anterior capsular excess. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaishali, for showing the technique of reverse optic capture. One suggestion for all the delegates is, if you have planned a toric IOL, you have a patient who is going to have PC rupture or something, it is a good idea to have a regular IOL as standby. So just in case you have a dioptric requirement of 22 diopter toric IOL, have a multi-piece toric, non-toric multi-piece IOL as a standby, just in case in the OT an event occurs, you would be able to place the IOL in the sulcus. Though you promise a toric IOL, you can still place the IOL in the sulcus. You always need to have a standby IOL of the same